Desert Hot Springs special meeting of the City Council for July 15th, 2020. It is our 4 p.m. video conference session. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Betts.
Present.
Councilmember Gardner.
Present.
Councilmember Pai.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Griffith.
Present.
And Mayor Mattis.
Present. Mr. Betts, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Okay, if you please rise and join me in saluting our nation's flag. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Any public comments, Gerald?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we have one item on the administrative calendar. It's Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, Home Investment Partnerships Program and Emergency Solutions Grant for fiscal year 21 through 2024. And this is going to be given by our Public Works Director, Danny Porras.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This item is regarding CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant. The city submits and receives a CDBG grant every year. We have been doing that in the past 5 years. And each year we are awarded a little bit over $200,000 annually. This money is used for specific tasks. Those tasks for the city have included the construction projects of Tedesco Park playground equipment, Tedesco Park shade structures, and ADA improvement, Mission Springs Park playground equipment, Mission Springs Park shade structures and ADA improvement, the Courtyard Park project, that's design environment on phase 1, and the Reflection Park project. The city goes through a grant application process every year, and in order for be eligible to submit those grants, we must be part of a program. That program is the Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnership Program, and Emergency Solutions Grant Program, and we have to have a agreement in place. That agreement is set to expire on June 30th, 2021. And the county is requesting the city to enter into a new agreement for the years 2021 and 2024 by this Friday, if we would like to continue to apply for these grants that we receive annually, about $200,000. This has no current impact on our fiscal impact, but we will be eligible to apply for future years as we have been doing in the past. Essentially, it is a renewal of a contract or agreement that's about to expire. Attached, you'll have a letter that identifies the deadlines by the county. You have the draft co-op agreement, and you have a resolution. I'll gladly answer any questions or any comments you might have. Thank you.
Any public comments, Gerald?
We do not.
All right, council members, anyone? Mr. Betts?
Whoever wants to go first, I'll wait if you like.
Mr. Griffith?
You said that the deadline was this Friday, but the letter I saw said July 10th. Is that a typo?
We actually get communication with the county, and they give us a one-time extension to this Friday.
Okay.
Mr. Gardner? Mr. Pai? Mr. Betts?
Okay, every time this one comes up, I have the same question. And it goes back to a long time ago when I first got elected. I'm corresponding with then Councilmember Stephen Hernandez, now Mayor Stephen Hernandez of Coachella. And as I'm taking a tour of the city, the first thing he says to me is, Russ, why is your city in the county CDBG program? You, with your demographics, and you might do much better under the other programs. So every time this comes up, I ask us to research the options. And one of the things that came up the last time in response to my question was that we didn't apply, or we didn't qualify, we weren't eligible. So I went and looked up the state eligibility requirements. And one of them, and that's a term I don't understand, maybe staff can help me, it's non-entitlement jurisdictions with populations under 50,000 are eligible to apply through the state CDBG program. And while I'm happy to see every year getting about 200,000, as it was explained to me, is say that was very little money compared to what we could be getting. We get thrown in with much richer areas. And So I understand this one is to look at a home investment partnership program. That's the main impetus of this, not necessarily the actual CDBG program. It's because we want to go for something on what's called a Home Investments Partnership Program and an Energy Solutions Grant for fiscal years 21-24. What are those two programs?
Let me answer that. Just real quick. So this is a three-part agreement or three-part program. The first program, CDBG. The second one's a Home Investment Partnership Program and Emergency Solutions Grant. In order for the city to be able to apply, we must have this agreement in place. And it is a competitive process. We do still have to apply, but there is a certain allocation limit that's selected for the city based on our population, based on a formula. It's not a competitive saying we want $1 million, we're going to get $1 million. No, it's an allocation said, hey, there is $217,000 this year. If you want it, since you're part of an entitled city, then you're entitled to that funding. You must submit a grant application and the project has to meet certain requirements. If it meets all the requirements, we receive that funding. If we don't become or execute this agreement, then we would be a non-entitled city and we would go through the other state program. The other state program is a completely fully competitive bid or competitive grant process where we would compete, we would submit based on that individual requirement of grants. So if it says, hey, it has to be a part, you have to have a match of 50%, you have to have XYZ, then we'll have to meet that independent grant application criteria so we can actually submit the application, and we'll be competing against everyone else. And yes, we can get more money than 200,000, that is correct, but it's not an allocated funding, it is a competitive funding. This is an allocated funding where as long as we meet the criteria, we will receive it. As long as we submit all of our application documents, as long as we have all our resolution in place, we will receive it for the program that do qualify. So those are the two big differences. And the Home Investment Partnership Program, those are programs, those aren't projects. And the Emergency Solution Grant Program, that's also a program for various programs. Sometimes they have funding for, let's say, homelessness. Sometimes they have funding for small nonprofit businesses. Those businesses are welcome to apply in the city as well. So that's what kind of the three programs are all connected to the same allocation that the city receives every year.
Okay, so we could be connected to a state program rather than the county program and be considered a entitled community for these other two programs. But the linkage to the county is that we need to be an entitled city. And so by going with the county program, we become an entitled city, and that puts us eligible for these other two programs, right?
Correct.
Okay, so and the question is on the funding is, you know, the sure deal is 200,000 every year, but the prize going the other way could be 4.5 million. And as it was explained to me years and years ago when I talked to Steve Hernandez the first time, he says, look, you guys are settling for 200,000 when you could be getting 4.5 million like we are for this project here. He pointed it out. So now the next thing is that this agreement, our current CDBG agreement expires on June 30th, 2021, which I think is just about a year from now. So we would have time to research this. Why aren't we now entitled for the Home Investment Partnership Program and the Energy Solution Grant for fiscal year grant? Why aren't we already entitled in those programs? We don't have an agreement that's expired yet. Our agreement expires a year from now, or at least 11 months. We've got time. We're still entitled. Why is the county pressuring us to re-up on this agreement now a year early?
Yeah, we did speak with the county regarding the deadlines, and they have this procedure and these laws set in place. They do require us to reapprove the agreement and submit the resolution almost 1 year ahead. That is correct. And we did confirm with them there was no typo. That is the correct date that they do have. And that is their process that they do follow.
And really quickly, I just would like to add, we did have communication about the option to continue as we have been doing, which is what we're asking council to consider today, or look at the alternative. And we had some dialogue with the county about that. And one of the examples that they had given us as to why would a city choose to not participate in this program. They give an example of the city of Indio. That's a city that does not participate. Funding is based on population and low income demographics. A large population with very low economic demographics allows the city of Indio to get more funding. The county, Susanna at the county actually suggested that the city of Desert Hot Spring wait until after the census is completed to see if the population made a dramatic increase and if our economic demographics decreased as well. And if those two things panned out, then it may in fact make more sense for the city to possibly reconsider. But without those two dynamics being in place, this is what the county had recommended that the city continue to do until after the census, and we can evaluate the results of that.
Okay, well, the problem here is that we get locked in to this thing for another, 4 years? And so then the option is lost to us if there's something better. And what I would have liked to have seen in the staff report, especially given the past conversation and questions that were raised on this is, these are the options you have for CDBG, and here's the pros and the cons. And Councilmember Betts, despite bringing this up numerous times, is all wet. He doesn't know what he's talking about, and here's why. It would be perfectly acceptable in a staff report. But I don't see any discussion here on options. And I would have liked to have seen that. And so now my next question is, do we have time to study those options? And I'm looking at a deadline of June 30th, 2021. I'm imagining that we could go back to county and say, hi, thank you very much. I understand you have this deadline. You'd like us to re-up a year ahead of time, but we got something we want to take a look at. Council wants to see what other options are out there and explore this and see if what I'm saying is worthy of looking at, and what I'm hearing from other jurisdictions is a better way to go. So I think I've made my point. I would love to hear some other discussion. I appreciate the staff's work on this and the efforts that they put in. I just have the same concern that comes up each time this comes up. So I'll rest my microphone for now, Mr. Mayor, and see what everybody else has to say.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dory.
Very quickly, one of the questions that, as Danny mentioned earlier, that staff had of the county with respect to the deadline was why a year in advance. And one of the things that the county also made reference to was that this was a HUD deadline. That was a hard deadline at the federal level that they are also fighting up against. So it was a multi-layered deadline that they're working with, which is why it is such an advanced deadline for us, because they have a lot of administration that they have to do to hit the HUD deadline as well.
I think what's being asked of staff is to come back with an option of opting out of this program in the future. What are the requirements to do that? You can actually probably talk with Mr. Betts directly and other council members during your meeting, Chuck, and or bring this back as an item later in the future.
I have an additional comment if I could.
Sure.
So the problem with that approach is that we vote today, we lock ourselves into this for 4 years, and any other future benefit is lost to us for another 4 years or 3 years if they want us to re-up early. I think anytime somebody's at my desk saying, hey, you got to buy this now or the deal is done, you only get this one opportunity at it, I say, really, what is the real deadline here? Do we have another month? Or staff could go and research this. Is that what the other council members think is a good idea? I would be interested to hear from other council members to see, what they think of what I'm bringing up here now, and see if it's worth maybe holding off on the vote now and go to just quickly do some research and get back to us and see where we're at. We're talking, millions versus a couple 100,000 is basically the pitch with our demographics meeting the eligibility requirements for a whole lot of stuff that we're not taking advantage of. Boy, my camera's freezing. I may just go back.
It's fine. Your point's definitely been made, Mr. Gardner.
Well, you wanted some additional input. I would not be in favor of rejecting this one at this time, mainly because this one is a guaranteed funding. The other one, that's a bird in the hand. The other one is a competitive funding with a bunch of other cities that we don't know if we're going to get anything from. So why give up what we know we're going to have in order to research whether we can get into another program where we have to be competitive and we may not get anything at all? So go ahead and research what it would be next year when this is up. We have the auctions all in front of us. maybe we decide to go with that. Maybe we decide to go with both. But rejecting this one right now makes absolutely no sense because we have guaranteed funding at this one.
Okay, if I could counter that and just correct you a little bit here, we're not flat out rejecting this one. We're seeing if we have the option to hold off a little bit, to research, come back to the council with an assessment of the state program versus the county program. And
Doesn't this one ends, the deadline is Friday, day after tomorrow.
well, yeah, a year early. I've never seen a deadline that was actually really a deadline. If you went back to the party you've been negotiating with for 15 years and say, hey guys, we need another 30 days to research that. Are you good with that? I bet you they'd probably say, okay. And the other thing is we don't get to come back next year and look at this one. This is 4-year agreement. So I appreciate it. If it was next year that we would come back and look at this one, I wouldn't be raising this. I'd just be bugging staff privately to say, hey, we need to dig into this. We only got a year to sort this out. Let's see if we can get it right or what is right. So just to correct you, it's not this year, just so everybody's aware, what we do now is a 4-year decision and we forestall any other benefit.
Anyone else?
So my motion would be to continue this until the end of the month, have staff get back to us. And that would be what I would like to see happen.
Is there a second? Second call for a second. Final call, motion dies. Jan, you had a comment?
Danny, can we apply, what I heard, we cannot apply for both. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, if this agreement gets executed, we are part of the entitled city or entitlement city, meaning we have an entitlement fund that we can apply for every year, which is generated by a formula, and it comes out to a little bit over 200,000. As long as we meet the criteria, we will be able to obtain that grant. We would not be able to apply for any other CDBG grants available to the state.
Okay.
Unless we were in the state program, then we might be an entitled program there. And I mean, it's a long list of things that you can get as far as, economic development, planning and technical. And again, all I'm asking for is the time.
Mr. Betts said Ms. Pye was still
I'm
asking
sorry, I
questions.
thought it was done. My apologies.
I believe, similar to Mr. Gardner, that we should take this. We should figure out what's happening on the state side, and we do need to have a better census. And if we do this, it's going to give us 800,000. Where if we just go with the state, we may not get anything. And I think the motion was made wrong because it was to continue, but we did not find out if the county would allow us to continue. I'm done.
Well, in my opinion, it's pretty simple. I've listened to Mr. Hernandez and his discussion on that, but they were very entrenched in the state legislature at the time with a lot of support. Again, this is not a guaranteed thing. Being with the county program, I know they make us sign a year in advance to be in the 4-year program. They've done this before. I have no problem if staff wants to keep on their radar to be able to bring this back in plenty of time so that we have options. But I don't. I think we take the money that's available to us and not chance having to hire consultants and extra staff members to get these programs. This is not an easy program. And if you did, I did research this with Mr. Hernandez years ago also. There is a dedicated person to having to write this stuff, make sure it's adhered to, and there's very strict guidelines on it. So I'm more in favor of capturing the money that we can capture without taking a risk of not getting any.
Mr. Mayor, can I make another motion then?
Yes.
Okay, so I make a motion to go with staff recommendation, but that in the next 15 days, staff will thoroughly research if we have an option to delay this deadline. And in the meantime, and also to research the state program and then to come back to council if there is an opportunity to reopen this discussion at a future date. And that leaves all the options open, but going with the council, going ahead and, taking whatever action the rest of the council members feel it needs to be taken right now, but still leaving it open for the staff to come back and say, you know what, we researched this, we found out that we do have the other option, and here's the pros and cons, and bring that back for a little bit more deliberation by the council. That would be my motion.
Is there a second? Second call for a second.
I'll second.
Okay. So we have a motion second. Any more discussion? Gerald, can you try to paraphrase the motion? It was quite long.
Yes. So the motion is to approve staff recommendation and that staff research options in the next 15 days for, sorry, I can't read my own writing, and then also research the state program.
Yeah, so to research the option to hold open the deadline, and if they find out we do have additional time under the deadline, and to concurrently research the state program, and if the state says that we can, or this county says, yeah, you can have 30 days, take it if you wanted to, whatever it is, and the staff would come back to us with additional information based on what they found. So it's basically vote yes now, but the staff finds something later, come back to us. That's just the heart of the motion.
So what you're asking is that the motion be approved with the recommendation, but if staff is to find or able to get an extension on this and have options for the council, then they would bring that back to us sometime as soon as possible.
Yeah, that would be good.
Any other?
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
So this means we're executing this agreement at this point unless the staff finds out that we can hold it over for a while and brings us back additional options. But if they find out that we can't hold it over, we've executed this agreement, correct?
Right. That's my understanding.
Swam?
Just want to make sure that all council is aware that we did have those conversations yesterday with the county about whether or not there was the availability of an extension, and they made it abundantly clear that there was not. They actually granted an extension to this Friday past the July 10th deadline. That is the sole extension that they were willing to give the city of Desert Hot Springs to execute this agreement, determine whether or not they wanted to execute this agreement.
And that was my understanding, is that we had until Friday to get it done. So
Correct.
if we pass this motion, despite Mr. Betts's addition to it, this will go in. It gives you a day to find out ask them once again if we can have an extension.
If that's what council would like us to do, but I just wanted you all to know we did have that conversation already with the county.
But there's no problem going back to the county and saying, hi, guy, we met. They really wanted more time. They weren't comfortable with having such short notice. And so please, please, please extend your deadline and see what they say, right?
Right.
That's not hard to do.
Motion's on the table. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Betts,
I'm going to hold until I see everybody else votes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Aye.
Councilmember Pai,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Griffith,
Aye.
Mayor Mattis,
No.
Councilmember Betts.
Aye.
The motion passes with Mayor Mattis opposed.
All right. That's the only items we have on the agenda tonight. Everybody be safe. If there's reason to come back for another special meeting, we'll hear from the city manager's office as that's necessary. If not, enjoy the rest of your time off this summer, and we'll see you on September 1st.